What is it that we need to do with this one? How do we need to change it?
Put a comma after 1610.
Put a comma after 1610. Absolutely. Why?
It's a year.
Well, it's a year. Okay. That's not the reason, but it's a good guess.
It's relative, add KW to it.
You add a K and a W to it. So K-N-O-W. Yes?
Yes.
Very good.
Put a period after perfect.
Put a period after perfect. And then what do we need to do with today? Capitalize the T. All right. It looks like, is there anything else? When astronomer Galileo observed sunspots in 1610, church leaders were angry that he'd suggest the sun wasn't perfect, period. Today we know sunspots are just the sun's relatively cold areas. Okay. So that comma after 1610 is not there because it's a year. However, that is one of the rules. But for this purpose, we have a relative adjective. Okay? When you start a sentence with when, a relative adjective begins a subordinate clause. Always. You actually have two. You have another right here. When and that. Relative adjectives. Okay? Relative adjectives, write this down, please. Relative adjectives begin or introduce. I like introduce better. Let's write that down. Introduce. D-U-C-E, Mrs. Arnie. Subordinate clauses. Okay? So you can take, I want to double check that when. It is a subordinate clause. I just want to double check to make sure that I am correct on that relative adjective. I want to make sure that's what it is. I'll pick that up in a minute. It'll be all right. It's not going anywhere.
Will we put a comma after today?
Huh? Today, would you put a comma? I would. I would definitely put a comma after today. Okay. Let me stop. And it's not a relative adjective, it's a relative pronoun. I knew I was wrong. Take out adjectives, guys. You're my guinea pig class. Forgive me, I know what I'm talking about. I'm glad I looked because it felt wrong. Learn from your mistakes and move on, right? It's a relative pronoun, introduces a subordinate clause. It felt wrong. So relative pronouns, we're looking at a list. Page 107, let me turn it. Relative pronouns, who, whom, whoever, whomever, whichever, which, whose, whatever, that, and what. So those are relative pronouns. So that when is not going to be a relative pronoun. However, it's going to be an adverb, asking the question when. So I completely chopped this one up. And that was my bad, and I take full blame for that. I'm so glad I'm recording myself. It makes me so happy. Hi, sarcasm. All right, so when is going to be a, Let me just go in here and look. Sorry, I need to reset this whole class. Do you guys ever mess up so bad that you just want to like crawl underneath something? Uh-huh. So you understand how I'm feeling right now, right? Okay. Subordinate clauses. Adverb subordinate clause 164, 168, and 169. So we're going to learn from this, okay? Subordinate clauses. A subordinate clause has a subject and a predicate, but does not express a complete thought, so it cannot stand alone as a sentence. I already knew that. There are three types of subordinate clauses. We have the adjective clause, which modifies nouns or pronouns. We have the adverb clause, which modifies verbs and adjectives or adverbs. And we have the noun clause, which functions as a noun. All right, so what we have here, now that I'm in the right mode, this is called an adverb subordinate clause. I want you to write this down too. Only I'm going to put it down on the bottom. Adverb subordinate clause. Okay. Adverb, it starts with an adverb. These are the 4 questions you ask yourself for the adverb, okay? When, where, how, and under what condition. Okay? These are the 4 questions you ask yourself for the adverb subordinate clause. This adverb subordinate clause, I'm going to highlight it in blue. And I'll just highlight underneath it. What question does that answer for the adverb subordinate clause questions, or for the adverb questions? Which one does it go to? When. Okay, which is pretty easy because you begin it, right, with the adverb, okay, when. And so this is not going to be the main subject of the sentence. Can this subordinate clause be moved? Church leaders were angry that he suggests the sun wasn't perfect when astronomer Galileo observed sunspots in 1610. Does it work? Yeah, it works. The adverb subordinate clause can be moved. Okay, so let's do that one. This is going to be another way to determine which type we're looking at. Oh my gosh. Can be moved. Okay? And it still stays in place. Now, we do have a relative pronoun that introduces a subordinate clause. We have another subordinate clause here, and I'm going to go in and underline that one in yellow. Okay? Thank you for moving for me. The sun wasn't perfect. Okay? That. Why were they angry? He'd suggest the sun wasn't perfect, right? Right. And that he'd suggest the sun wasn't perfect is actually talking about the reason for church leaders to be angry. Yes? Are you following me? Did you learn something today? One, Mrs. Arnie's not perfect. Even though I hold a master's degree, sometimes this stuff gets a little sticky, right? Okay? So do I expect you to remember all of this all at one time? No, because if I did, that wouldn't be fair, would it? No, but that's why we do it every day, or every 3 days a week. Does that make sense to you? So now we know that I'm not perfect, number one. Number two, we have 2 different types of subordinate clauses that we're going to be looking at a lot, okay? We're going to be looking at the relative pronoun, and we're going to be looking at the adverb. Right now, we're just going to focus on the adverb, these 4 questions. Tomorrow, we may get another subordinate clause that begins with the relative pronoun, which will then introduce another subordinate clause, and I'll give you that list.
You got a tissue?
behind, yeah, there's a bunch of them back there. You have to go open a box, okay? And then that today. Let's go ahead and plug in that comma. Why? What question does today answer? When. So what part of speech is today? It's right there. It's underlined.
Adverb.
Adverb. And so, does today modify we? Does it change we? Today, we? Does it change that, we? No, it doesn't. What does it change? What does an adverb change? It's in the word adverb. Verb. Okay? So the word that today modifies or changes is right here. Does that make sense? Today, when do we know it? We know it today, right? Does that make sense to you? Okay, so it's an adverb, so we're going to separate that off with a comma. Do you see? Yes? Did I explain that one okay?
Yes.
Even though I jacked up the original, did I explain it okay? You got it? All right. Good. Hallelujah. We're going to take some notes today. Are you ready? All right. We've got some notes today for writing. You excited? What? Yes. No. Yes. Yes. But I should give you a note. So let me do that. While I'm writing this note, I need you guys to shift into... How many of you have your composition books? That's what this composition stuff is going to be for. It's going to be for your journal writing and your note taking for class, okay? Go ahead and get those out. If you don't have those, get a piece of paper in the back red basket. You're going to keep your notes separated from your bell work for this part of it, okay? Good? All right, go for it. Switch it out. And I'm going to pick up my mess too while I'm at it. This entire thing is just
You're making like gay jokes here, see Marshall was on like, you gotta think for your game. What? He's like, I'm gonna be 6 and tune it up and get exhaust. Look at the beach with V8. I'm gonna charge your Hellcat.
all right. Notes. Okay, so talk to me. Why do we write?
Get better at writing.
But wait. To get better at writing? To communicate, I do like that one. To get better at writing, Matt?
Yeah.
Really?
Everybody has room to improve.
Everybody what?
Has room to improve.
Everybody has room to improve. We do. Okay, so why do we write? Why do we write? Write this stuff down. I'm writing on the board. You're writing on the board. You're writing on your paper. Why do we write? To communicate. To get better at writing. You know, get is a very weak word. We use it all the time, though, don't we? And I would actually say to become or to improve our writing, right? That would be much stronger, wouldn't it? What else do we write? What are some of the reasons you guys have to write? Your teachers make you. Education, right? Okay. What else? Does everybody write for education? No, they don't all write for education, right? Sometimes we write for fun to tell stories. Thank you. I like that one. Grocery list. Listing stuff down. A lot of people will make tons and tons of lists, right? So here we go. To tell stories. Okay, that's not going to work. I was hoping. Lists, yes. What else? What else do we write? Share ideas. We have the communicate, right? That would go with share ideas, right?
Yes.
Okay. How about expressing ourselves? Personal expression.
Would that be tell stories?
Not always. Who are we telling stories to?
People.
Other people. Have you ever heard of a journal? Have you ever heard of a journal that nobody, my secret diary, nobody's going to read?
I read it.
And we write? You would read it? And we write in it, yes? Personal expression. Diary. Okay. Let's talk about forms of writing then. What kind of forms would we use for communication? What forms do you guys currently use to communicate? Text, technology, texting. N-O. Oh, yes. Letter writing. How many of you have written a letter before?
No.
You would be surprised at how many kids do not write letters and don't even know how to begin. You'd be very shocked. Okay. What else do we use for communicating? Who are we communicating to? Who's our audience when we communicate like that? Friends. So let's go ahead and put this audience list over here. Okay. So if we're writing using technology, we're using our cell phones and we're texting, we're going to talk to friends, right? Who else do we use to communicate with? Family. Who else? Now remember, this is just for communication purposes, right? Technology. How many of you just want to put somebody on blast and put it out into the world? Yeah, we do that. So we're talking to the world in general, right? Especially if we're doing it on Facebook or Snapchat or Instagram, correct? Yes. Yeah? Okay. So we have that. This is going to be the audience for this whole to communicate. And I'm going to put a line underneath it. How about to get better at writing? And we'll put education as a subgenre. Who's the audience there? And how do we do it? So let's talk about how. How do we get better at writing and for education? What do we write?
Practice.
Well, what are we practicing though?
Writing.
Give me a format.
Essays.
Do we do it essays? Very good. We use essay. Do we do anything other than essay for writing and education? What are you guys doing right now? Note taking. Oh, there is a skill for note taking that really needs to be developed. Okay? What else do we do for education? What other kinds of writings can we do for education? What do you do on Fridays? No, I'm talking about for writing, silly. Of course, we do football games on Fridays. All of us do that. I'm talking about for writing, though. What do we do on Fridays? What do you... Look in your papers, people. Look in your notebooks. Some of you wrote for me. We did our journal at writing, right? Our journal prompt, yes? Journal prompts, yes? Who is the audience to get better at writing in education? Who are you writing to? Self and teacher. That's the general audience, yes? Okay. Telling stories. How do we tell stories? Voice, right? This one can be a vocal thing, right? Let's say voice. What else can we tell stories on? Are there apps for that? Of course there's apps for that. You can tell a story in an app. What? A brown number 4? Which one, A or B? Just a brown?
Yeah.
Make sure you bring it back. Yeah. There you go.
Oh no.
Oh, the answer key?
Yeah.
Here's for B. I don't know if she has, I think actually you guys have an A over there. You're in Kelly's, right? Thank you. All right, so boys, how else do we tell stories? Action. How do we do that in school? Technology. I think I heard that. Is that right? Can we use tech to tell a story? Yeah, you can watch any, what is that called? A Vine or any YouTube, and you can see storytelling in action. Yes? Okay. Also, you can do this in journaling, right? Plus, if you tell a story in journaling or you tell a story in essay format, you're looking at a narrative, are you not? Okay. Who is your audience?
Family, friends, world.
Family, friends, world. And teachers sometimes, yes?
Yeah.
Family, friends, world, teacher, self. Have you ever heard of people writing fan fiction? You laugh. Why are you laughing? Huh? Most of it's horrible? Do you read it? Do you? I had a student last year who wrote fan fiction all the time. That was her thing. And she wrote fan fiction. Yeah, I know. Was it bad? Did you read it?
We didn't read it.
But you can understand. Julian, do you need something? Okay. So we have self. All right, what about lists? Oh, lists. I like lists. How do we write lists? What do we use? Paper. What else do we use? A pen. What else? Technology. Who are the lists for?
Groceries.
Personal, right? They're self, yes. Normally they're just for self, unless you have a honey-do list, and then you've got a spouse. Girls, usually it's your husbands that get that honey-do list, okay? And so you've got that part of it. But what other kinds of things do we write for like? I'm thinking of recipes. Yes, okay. If you have a recipe that maybe a grandma left before she passed away, that thing's going to be cherished and valued, is it not? Okay. And so you've got recipes that you can do, and so I'll plug that down here. And recipes generally are written for self and self and family. All right. Let's talk about personal expression, a diary. How do we keep a diary? What format do we use to keep a diary? Book with a lock, yes. Or composition book works too, right? As long as you don't let anybody know where it is. A notebook, yes. How many of you keep a diary online? You ever heard of that? Some people keep one online, a tech. You know what that's called? It's called a blog. That's what it used to be called. Okay. Now blogs make money, don't they? But usually when you're reading a blog, you're reading somebody's journal. Okay. And they share all kinds of things. They share recipes, they share how-tos, they share personal experiences, parenting tips, blah, 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 blah. Right? That's really popular. Who's the audience for personal expression in a diary? Sometimes the world, especially if you keep a blog, right? What else? Who else would be an audience? How about self? Yes? For self-expression. Okay. So why do we write? Do we have different ways that we can write? Yes. Different formats. Let's talk about formats. Next. Do you have all this down? Everybody got it down yet? We're going to actually focus on two areas. Can you tell me which ones you think we will focus on in here? And tell me which ones you think we're going to focus on in here. What two areas are we going to look at? To get better at writing and to tell stories. Okay? All right. We're going to start with a narrative. That's where we're heading. Can I switch it? Okay. So we're going to begin with a narrative. How many of you know what the narrative looks like as a blueprint? What is a blueprint? Something that helps you build. You're looking at a blueprint. You're looking at how it's structured, yes? And what the ideas are. Can you tell me what the narrative blueprint is? What does it look like? Anybody? Anybody? I feel like have you ever watched Ferris Bueller's Day Off? The teacher that goes, Bueller, and everybody's just like, right? All right, we're going to pick it up here tomorrow, and we're going to continue with our note-taking, and then we'll get into an activity. All right? Sound good? Thanks for putting up with my mistakes.